All right, please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, good afternoon once again. My name is Carol.
Which language? Okay.
But for the sake of our development partners in the room, I think English is what we're agreed on.
Mheshimiwa Waziri Profesa Adolf Mkenda, Mheshimiwa Waziri Kitila Mkumbo, Mheshimiwa Naibu Waziri, Mheshimiwa Katambi, wadau wa maendeleo, partners wetu Vodacom na UNDP kupitia Funguo program, na wasalimu kwa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Yeah, I'm told to use both languages, but I'm sure everybody understands English. Kuna changamoto ya Kiswahili? Ya Kiingereza? Okay. So on behalf of the Tanzania Commission for Science and Technology, it is my great honor and a privilege to welcome you all to the Innovation Week Tanzania 2025, a national platform, and this is the 13th edition where vision usually meets action and innovation meets opportunity. Karibuni sana. This year, the theme is Innovation for Resilient and Inclusive Future, which in today's world of uncertainty, from climate shocks to the digital disruption, the future belongs to those who innovate, adapt, and collaborate. So Tanzania must be among them. As you understand, the government first duty is to create conducive environment. And this kind of event is a conducive environment where innovation, the government, and the community meet together to dialogue, to see the opportunities available. That's why we say vision meets action, and innovation is meeting opportunity. Because the innovators, they meet the leaders, as we see today, we have ministers here, the government, where policies can be discussed and challenged or improved. So thanks to the government for being able to put this condition environment for us to meet here today. Now at COSTECH, our mission is very clear, which is to enable, coordinate, and promote research, science, technology, and innovation as a key driver for national development. So we are not just supporting innovators, but we are building systems, supporting policies that help innovators thrive from grassroots to global markets. So this week, as we engage in the exhibitions, dialogue, masterclasses, and the youth-led sessions, let us ask ourselves some critical questions. How do we build a future-ready Tanzania where no one is left behind? Kama ilivyo our theme. But also, how do we ensure that innovation serves not only profit, but people and the planet? But also, how do we transition our ideas into sustainable, scalable impact? As you remember, at COSTECH, the government, through the conducive environment, already has been supporting the innovators from ideation in the pipeline. But recently, we have started to put aside fund for commercialization, for their unwavering support and belief in the power of innovation and collaboration. I also recognize the efforts of our regional partners, youth champions, researchers, and private sector actors who fueled this movement across the country. My deepest gratitude to Professor Adolf Mukenda, the Minister of Education, Science and Technology. Despite the colliding timetable for the budget session, which just ended 2 days ago, Professor Mukenda really accepted the invitation to host this event and making himself available today to participate in the Ministerial roundtable and the later blessing us all. But also my gratitude to Professor Kitila Mukumbo and Mheshimiwa Katambi making yourself available, because the youth don't find the opportunity being in the same room with the government such high level to engage. So this is a great opportunity. Kwa kweli mmetuheshimisha, tunashukuru sana. Thank you. Let this week be more than an event. Let it be a launching pad for long-term transformation. With those few remarks, I welcome you all once again, and I invite you to fully participate and engage. Challenge ideas constructively and forge a new collaboration that will carry our nations forward. Asante sana. Nashkuruni.
Another round of applause for Dr. Nungu, please. But also, I will have you know, I don't know how many of you have been down that road. The Costec building is under construction. Have you seen that? A round of applause for him, please. Some of us in the ecosystem are very happy about that, so congratulations on making that happen, and of course to the minister as well. Now, allow me to welcome the UNDP Deputy Resident Representative, Mr. John Rutere, who will be followed by the Vodacom Tanzania CEO and Managing Director, Mr. Philip Besmire, for their opening remarks.
Na wasalimu kwa jina la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania.
Tanzania yetu ndiyo nchi ya kusifiwa.
Asante. Honorable Professor Adolf Mukenda, Minister for Education, Science and Technology. Honorable Professor Kitila Mukumbo, Minister of State President's Office for Planning and Investment. Honorable Patrobas Katambi, Deputy Minister, PMO, Labor, Youth, Employment, and People with Disabilities. Dr. Amos Nungu, Director General, Tanzania Commission of Science and Technology. Mr. Philip Besmire, Managing Director, Vodacom Tanzania. Madam Ilk Welsh, Resident Representative of UNICEF, Madam Gertrude Mapunda, Human Development Team Leader, British High Commission to Tanzania, all government officials present, and all distinguished development partners present, startup founders who are our VIPs today, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Let me greet you with my limited Swahili and say, habari za mchana. Kwa majina anaitwa John Rutere, na mimi ndio Deputy Resident Representative wa UNDP in Tanzania. That's as far as my Swahili goes. On behalf of the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, it is my great pleasure and privilege to welcome you to this important ministerial roundtable with the theme, what it will take to build a future-ready and inclusive innovation economy. This is a defining moment in our collective journey to shape a resilient and inclusive, innovative economy for Tanzania. As you may know, and for those who attended the session this morning, where I said Tanzania's economy is poised to overtake that of Kenya within the next decade. Okay? I want to repeat that again because I think the president of Finland, took note, and really, Tanzania is growing at such a remarkable rate that we are living at a moment of opportunity that we have to grasp and make sure that we keep the trajectory of the Tanzanian growth rate moving forward. Tanzania today is growing at a rate of more than 6%, and if the same trajectory is maintained, Tanzania is poised to become the largest economy in the region. Key sectors that will drive the growth will be agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, service industry, mining, and many other diverse sectors within the economy. Therefore, in order for us to achieve and keep this acceleration of growth going, we need to embrace inclusivity, and we need to embrace innovation within Tanzania. Key requirements include increased investment by both public and private sector, and also introducing major reforms that will create a conducive business environment. Innovation Week Tanzania 2025 has become more than just a platform. It's now become a national movement, powered by visionaries, entrepreneurs, policymakers, researchers, and development partners, all united with a shared belief that innovation is not a luxury, but a necessity for inclusive development and future readiness. Inclusive because we want to leave no one behind. We want to make sure that this projected economic growth is spread across all spheres of the economy and all regions within the society. Today's roundtable reminds us that innovation policy is not the business of one ministry alone. It calls for convergence across ministries, sectors, and ideologies, because the challenges we face and the opportunities we seek are interconnected. At UNDP, we are proud to co-host this 11th edition of Innovation Week Tanzania in partnership with our esteemed partners, the Tanzania Commission for Science and Technology, COSTECH, and Vodacom Tanzania, to whom we are grateful, we are entirely grateful. Also the support of our development partners, particularly the European Union, the governments of the United Kingdom, and the government of Finland, who joined us this morning for the launch of the Green Forest Initiative funded by the government of Finland. We wish to also extend our appreciation to the sponsors to other sponsors of Innovation Week Tanzania, including UNICEF, UN Women, Stanbic Bank, NBC Bank, CRB Foundation, TCRA, Azam Media, and Mwananchi Communications Limited, and all other partners who have come on board to make this vision possible. We call upon all partners, especially and including those in the private sector, to join us to make this platform more sustainable. From catalytic funding for startups under the Funguo Initiative program to green transformation initiatives like the Green Catalyst Initiative that we launched earlier today, and the promotion of youth-led enterprises, UNDP is proud to work hand in hand with the government of Tanzania and other development partners to co-create solutions that match the scale and urgency of today's development challenges, but more importantly, to come up with solutions that are adaptive to Tanzania, local solutions that are homebred and homegrown for Tanzania's context. We look forward to the reflections, commitments, and pathways that will emerge from this roundtable, and let us live here today with a renewed sense of urgency and a deep spirit of collaboration and look into the future with unlimited optimism of the endless possibilities that lie ahead for Tanzania. If we get the necessary building blocks in place, then the sky will be the limit for Tanzania. I am very excited to be in Tanzania at this moment, and I hope you all feel the excitement that I do. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll take the opportunity to invite Philip.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rutere. Over to you, Philip. Mr. Rutere promised me he would be brief. You see, this is what Kenya does to Tanzania. You tell us one thing, but thank you for that speech, though. Asante sana. Karibu.
Honorable Professor Adolf Mukenda, Minister of Education, Science and Technology, Honorable Professor Kitila Mukumbo, Minister of State, President's Office for Planning and Investment, Honorable Patrobas Katambi, Deputy Minister for Labor, Youth Employment and Persons with Disabilities, partners from UNDP and COSTECH, event sponsors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, habari za mchana. Because there's lots of young people in this room and you're used to shorts, reels and all that, you may swipe past me, so I'll try and keep this as brief as possible. It's a privilege to welcome you to this high-level ministerial roundtable as we gather for the 2025 Innovation Week and the Future Ready Summit. Today's dialogue marks a critical opportunity to reflect on where we are and shape where we're going. In this room, we have leaders shaping the future of youth employment, digital transformation, investment, education, infrastructure, and industrialization. It's a rare opportunity to break silos and discuss issues that affect us all. That is why today's dialogue is very important. At Vodacom, we believe technology, when aligned with policy and powered by partnerships, is one of the most powerful tools we have to unlock inclusive growth and shared prosperity. This was the motivation for convening the Future Ready Summit, and it is a great pleasure for us at Vodacom to join forces with UNDP and COSTECH to co-host this year's Innovation Week, where our flagship Future Ready Summit is the anchor event. Throughout the course of the week, we have been discussing how innovation can be scaled to address real-world challenges, from climate-resilient infrastructure and inclusive service delivery for preparing our youth for the future of work. And for those of you that were in the room yesterday when our guest and expert speaker spoke about AI and the future of AI, I'm sure if he did not excite you, he probably got you all frightened. So it's really important that we participate and play our role today in shaping what that future is going to be. We are committed as Vodacom to playing our part, whether it's through expanding digital infrastructure, innovation hubs, investing in youth skills, or fostering partnerships across sectors. We believe that the future is something we must build together. On that note, I thank you all for your presence today and encourage open, bold, and forward-looking dialogue. Asanteni sana, pamoja tunaweza, and I hope you didn't scroll past me. Thank you so much.
Philip, thank you. You did get the code, so thank you for that. Right, now allow me to welcome on stage Gertrude Mapunda Kihundwa, who is the Human Development Team Leader from the British High Commission to Tanzania. I hope I got that name right, and apologies if I didn't. Thank you. Karibu sana.
Good afternoon. Honorable Professor Adolf Mukenda, Minister for Education, Science and Technology. Honorable Professor Kitila Mukumbo, Minister of State, Planning and Investment. Honorable Mheshimiwa Patrobas Katambi, Deputy Minister, Labor, Youth Employment and People with Disability, Director of Vodacom, UNDP representative, UNCEF representatives, all partners present here, ladies and gentlemen, habari za mchana. It's So as I was introduced, my name is Gertrude Mapunda, and I work for the British High Commissioner here in Tanzania. On behalf of the British Commissioner, it's my honor to be with you in this important dialogue on innovation and entrepreneurship themed Building a Future-Ready Tanzania. First of all, I would like to congratulate the government of Tanzania under the leadership of Her Excellency President Dr. Samia Suluhu for progress being made in supporting startups and innovation, small and medium enterprises. And I'd like to congratulate Ufunguo and UNDP, Vodacom, and all the partners, including Costech, for really sustaining the Innovation Week. Standing here today, I remember more than 10 years ago when the Innovation Week was started under the innovation, what we were calling then Human Development Innovation Fund, which was the program that I was saying, was a very small innovation week, started at the residence. And to see this has grown into a national event, being sponsored beyond the original partners, but also being sponsored by private sector, is a really honor to see. And I'm proud to see the progress, and I believe it will grow day by day and will be a major event because there's been so many developments that have developed as a result of the Innovation Week, which is great to see this being sustained. Today's dialogue is a cornerstone of this week's conversation, uniting all of us to shape the future of innovation, youth employment, investment, education, and digital transformation. Your presence, and really honored to have the ministerial team together with us this morning, underscores a shared commitment to harnessing innovation as a catalyst for Tanzania's sustainable and inclusive growth in line with Tanzania Vision 2050. Innovation and diffusion of technology are indispensable for economic growth. They lead to increased productivity and to creation of wealth and economic well-being. They are also instrumental to promoting the structural transformation of economies at different levels of development. However, it doesn't happen by accident. It needs to be supported, nurtured, and created by an enabling environment that allows innovations to thrive. And meaning the policy environment is quite critical for sustaining innovation and technology investment. So this also includes investment in people through education, because we could dream and talk about innovation, but without the people, there isn't innovation. Usually I do tend to say, technology only solves a problem that is more than people. We have the people, and it enables us to go further and beyond. The UK remains proud to continue to support Tanzania innovation journey, and we're really pleased to see that there's been this significant progress over the last 15 years. We remained committed to the cause through our contribution to Funguo Innovation Program, alongside the European Union, UNDP, and now Finland have joined the board, which is good to see. As we dialogue on the role of innovation for a resilient and inclusive future, let us draw inspiration from the creativity and drive of Tanzanians innovators, many of whom are showcasing their work this week. From fintech to green energy, their work is evidenced that Tanzania innovation future is promising. And here also let me tell you a story of when we started the Innovation Week. And at that time, we had a young man who was solo and was invited to come to Innovation Week to just take pictures, and was paid an allowance for the job because we didn't have money, but we wanted to have this started. Today, this person might be in this room. He's running his own company and is employing 20 people. And this is just under 10 years. So you can see how platforms like these are really crucial, just for companies, but for individuals and what they can grow and become out of this. Allow me to take this opportunity to commend fellow development partners, private sector and government to continue to support and who have sponsored the Innovation Week. And I'm pleased to see that Costech remained a constant partner into this and going over and beyond what they do. And particularly, I'd like to also thank Ufunguo under the leadership of UNDP, Vodacom, for bringing us together here, and for the good work that you continue to do. Your impact is highly valued and appreciated. Lastly, I encourage all of us to approach this week's conversation with boldness and collaboration. The challenge we face remain complex, but so too are the opportunities. Together we can work to unlock Tanzania's potential to create jobs and build a resilient and inclusive future for all. And innovation and technology have a greater role to play on this. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to hearing the insights that comes out of today's discussion. Many thanks.
Thank you so much, Gertrude, for those key remarks. And last but not least, allow me to welcome on stage from UNICEF, Representative Elkwish, Ms. Elkwish. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Habari za Michana. Really great to feel this incredible energy and dynamism in this room, just walking in this afternoon. And wonderful to see so many of our innovators and leaders gathered right here. Honorable Professor Adolf Mkenda, Minister of Education, Science and Technology. Honorable Professor Kitila Alexander Mukumba, Minister of State Planning and Investment. Honorable Patrobas Pashal Katambi, Deputy Minister of State, Prime Minister's Office for Labor, Youth, Employment and People with Disabilities. Dr. Amos Munda Nungu, Director General COSTEC. Mr. John Butera, Deputy Representative from UNDP. Mr. Philip Bezimire, CEO and Managing Director of Vodacom Tanzania, our hosts. My colleague, fellow Gertrude Mapundo from the British High Commission. All the partners and friends, importantly, all the innovators in the room, young people who are watching us. Again, a very warm good afternoon. It is my pleasure on behalf of the UN Children's Agency to be with you today at this dynamic event on building a future-ready Tanzania. And I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to COSTEC, Vodacom, our sister agency UNDP, and all those who have made Innovation Week Tanzania and the Future Ready Summit 2025 a platform for true collaboration and forward-looking dialogue. At UNICEF, we believe that innovation is not only about technology. It is about finding new but also inclusive ways to solve real-world challenges so that every child and young person, and of course their parents and communities, especially the most vulnerable, can thrive. Tanzania is entering a decisive era. It has this incredible resource of a youthful population and the potential for incredible energy, creativity, and drive coming from every single one of these children and young people. With nearly half of the population under the age of 18, the investments Tanzania makes today will shape the country's future for decades to come. By 2050, more than 60% of Tanzanians will be under 25. This demographic can present immense opportunities, and Tanzania can reap the dividend of this child and youth cohort, provided that we equip young people with the skills, tools, and enabling policies they need to succeed. The Tanzania Development Vision 2050 recognizes digital transformation, science, and technology as key drivers of future economic growth, and it is our challenge to get Tanzania's young people ready and equipped to be the stewards and the leaders of this important transformation. In all we do, we must be cognizant that there are many disparities. Digital literacy remains low, especially among women. Only 22% of women in Tanzania have basic digital skills compared to 32% of men. These gaps begin early and can significantly limit young people's access to opportunity and innovation. That is why today's discussion is so important. Innovation must be integrated into Tanzania's education, employment, and digital inclusion strategies, not as an add-on, but as a central driver of resilience and growth. Honorable ministers, distinguished guests, let me acknowledge and commend the government of Tanzania for enacting several policies that have laid the groundwork for this agenda. Under the leadership of Her Excellency President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, Tanzania has made clear commitments to gender equality, digital inclusion, and human capital development. These commitments are being translated into action through key policies such as the school re-entry guidelines and national strategies for digital skills development. The national ICT policy, the youth development policy, and the education sector reform all recognize the importance of digital skills for the future. And I would like to say a special appreciation to Honorable Professor Adolf Makenda, Minister of Education, Science and Technology, for his leadership, particularly in moving the education sector reform forward. There has been a lot of encouraging progress on the ground. Initiatives are integrating digital skills into classrooms, supporting youth innovation hubs, and offering coding boot camps and community-based training. At UNICEF, we have been pleased to be working in close partnership with the government, private sector, and civil society to institutionalize innovation both within the schools and higher learning institutions and universities by establishing innovation labs that equip young people with critical future-ready skills. At the same time, youth training hubs such as the Integrated Program for Outer School Adolescents, or IPOSA centers, are expanding access to digital learning and entrepreneurship and life skills for outer school youth. However, noting many, many important programs, and I think each and every one of us in the room could cite many other very good initiatives that Tanzania has been boasting, the challenge ahead is that we must get to scale. We must scale up what works, ensuring that proven solutions reach every child and young person, with special attention to those that are otherwise left behind, especially young women, adolescents in rural areas, and children with disabilities. Innovation cannot thrive in silos. It must be embedded across sectors and systems to deliver sustainable impact. Looking ahead, 3 critical priorities merit our continued attention and collaboration. First, we must strengthen policy and legal frameworks. Digital literacy, STEM education, and innovation should be embedded in education policy, beginning with early childhood education. Equally important are strong protection for children's digital rights to ensure a safe and empowering online environment. Second, we need to enhance coordination and accountability. Innovation touches multiple sectors and areas of expertise. Strong national leadership is essential to align efforts across ministries, the private sector, and development partners, as well as civil society, with young people meaningfully engaged in shaping the solutions that impact their lives. Third, we must increase investment in digital inclusion. Children and young people are Tanzania's greatest asset. Social sector budgeting should prioritize digital education, child-centered innovation, and inclusive infrastructure to unlock their full potential. Honorable ministers, dear guests, the potential is clear. Mobile connectivity is expanding the private sector is ready to engage, and most importantly, Tanzania's youth are innovating, creating solutions for their communities, and are part of leading the way to this incredible change. So the momentum is already here. UNICEF remains committed to supporting Tanzania's journey. We're pleased to be part of this vibrant, innovative ecosystem, one that places children and young people at the center, and we will continue embedding digital learning and innovation into education and youth development strategies, scaling successful models, and uniting partners around a shared vision. Together, we can build a future-ready and innovative Tanzania where every child, young person, regardless of background, can thrive. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much, Ms. Elk Wish from UNICEF. Now, before we dive into our ministerial dialogue, I've been tasked with energizing the room, so I'm going to try my best. But since we're talking about innovation and entrepreneurship, and we have 3 rows, if I'm not mistaken, let's try to think outside the box. So for example, if this row had $1 billion USD to revolutionize innovation and entrepreneurship in Tanzania, what would you do? I like that, but the task is to come up with an idea. So you have $1 billion USD. This row, you own Vodacom, okay? Let's say Vodacom has like 1 shareholder, we're assuming. So you own Vodacom, and you are in Tanzania, and you probably dominate, the largest market share. So what do you do as Vodacom to revolutionize innovation and entrepreneurship in Tanzania? And then this row, let's assume that in Mars, the head of the alien kingdom is called Elon, okay? Now, we want to lobby with Elon to revolutionize innovation and entrepreneurship, but all the way from Mars. What can he do for us? Or it? What can it do for us? Okay, so let's take ideas. The idea is to be quick, guys. Come on, we gotta be on our feet. Innovation and entrepreneurship, that's how we're supposed to think. Yes, we have an idea, okay. $1 billion USD.
In a very quick, I will develop more like a garage, innovation garage, where most youth would come and have offices there, because offices is a big challenge when it comes to youth entrepreneurs. So we'll have an innovation garage where we'll have different offices. So even investors, when they come, they'll go there directly and see what they would want to invest. We'll have different sectors. Yeah, in a quick run. We'll have that and Dodoma. Yes. Okay.
In addition to what she said, allocate a geographical area for an innovation park. Yeah, innovation industrial park.
Like EPZ, yeah, like even, okay. I love that. All right, so we have 2 from here. A round of applause for that gentleman, please. Now, we are Vodacom. Yes. Yeah, and imagine there's no mix by Siju Nini, there's no Nani, we are Vodacom. So what are we doing? Vodacom, come on. Philip is going to be disappointed, guys. Tenene Zekana, he has money to give you. No? You are Vodacom. You have the largest market share in Tanzania. Yes, okay.
So I will leverage Vodacom's telecommunication expertise with developing technologies like AI as well as quantum computing. So we'll create technology dominance in Tanzania on those 2 technologies, leveraging telecommunication expertise with quantum computing.
Does that make sense to Vodacom? Yes? No? Okay, let's challenge another one. Good. One more for Vodacom. Come on, guys, let's challenge them. They're in the room. Yeah? You are Vodacom. Yeah, but it's supposed to be from this row, but okay, we'll make an exception. So this row you're losing, and just sitting with the ministers, I'm just saying, okay.
I would offer free licenses of Microsoft suites, of the Google suites, to make it easier for people to access all of the basic tools to build upon.
But you'll need to have a Vodacom SIM card to do that. Yes? So okay. I'll take that. Okay, in the interest of time, let me go to Elon. We are in Mars. Yes. Okay, I like this. I saw you were thinking.
You saw me. Hello. Salim kwa jina la Jamhuri. If I get the opportunity to invite or to invite anything to convince the alien society to capitalize the opportunity to find in Tanzania, my idea is what it will be to convince them to invest in Tanzania diversity, culture, because I believe in culture, there's rich on it. And even the youth, if we capitalize our culture, Tanzania diversity, we have more than 100 tribes. If we invest in Tanzania cuisine, dress, in terms of tribe which we have, I think the alien, they can help the nation. Terrific. I get the idea. You know where I get the idea? Okay.
No, I like that. I was just going to challenge you that imagine Mars does not have any food. They have no idea what food looks like. They don't eat. How do you sell an idea that does not exist in their world?
I got you a challenge. They don't have food. What is the source of their energy? Where do they get the energy in their body? And if they don't dress, at the movie say, Hollywood, they don't dress. But we convince them, we have dress. We convince them, please hype, we can walk naked, please. It's impossible. So we'll convince them, there is something we need to do for our nation. We have 100, whatever, and 50, whatever, of our culture. We have 66 or 63 million. The youth are there. Give them the skills, invest in culture. We have harness. Why can't we have our local? Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for him trying so hard to sell the idea. I'll take one more. Yes, Karibu.
Can you come again with your question?
Yes. I like that we're trying, although we don't know what we're trying. This is good. Okay, so you are trying to lobby with the head of the alien kingdom in Mars, planet Mars, outside Earth. They don't have any food. They don't wear clothes. What can they do for us, Tanzania, in terms of innovation and entrepreneurship?
Do you think that one is difficult?
I don't. Do you?
It is very easy.
Okay.
I'll tell that we are co-creating a product here. The ministers are here, means the government is here. We have industrial, what is a park? Entrepreneurial park. We have a company called Vodacom. It's trying to become not bigger than them, but they would like to facilitate that one. And the government is ready. UNDP is ready and the participants are ready.
So they come here?
No, their pain is not to come here. We will send them artificial intelligence software which will translate all our pains and gains, and they might be interested to invest in us.
Okay. I like that. The last time I asked these questions, Joseph here and their group, they said they would come up with a program that could reprogram politicians. It's always possible. So Professor Mkenda and Professor Kitila and Mr. Katambi, you need to be very careful where technology is heading. We might just be able to reprogram you. If we don't like what you're saying, we're like, okay, no, let's do this again. Okay, so Asanteni-san, I think we tried. Are we energized now? Almost? Okay, so we're ready to listen. Now, our Ministerial Roundtable Dialogue is going to be talking about building a future-ready Tanzania. And the session is expected to bring together our key ministers in these particular areas. But also what we are expecting to achieve is possibly high-level political commitment to inclusive innovation, but also to be able to facilitate cross-ministerial and stakeholder dialogue on national innovation priorities. Last but not least, align strategies across government, private sector, and development partners who we have all in the room. So without further ado, allow me to pass the mic to Joseph, who is going to introduce the panelists, but as well as his co-moderator.
All right, thanks, Carol, but you sold me. I didn't say I would like to reprogram politicians, I'm sorry. We cannot really do without them. So, Prof, she was lying. All right. Yeah, so let me welcome on stage Annette Kanora as my co-moderator. And without further ado, I would like to welcome on stage Professor Mkenda, Adolf Mkenda. Karibu on stage. You are the host minister, so tunakuweka kati pale. Yes. So, Professor Kitila Mkumbo, karibu. and Honorable Patrobas Katambi. Karibu san. Somebody was telling me that's a challenge to you because you are next to two professors, so maybe it's a call to action for you. Right, so we're going to try to make this interactive as much as possible. But before we go any further, I understand that Philip has a flight to catch, so he might be excusing himself in the next few minutes. So Philip, asante sana for hosting us. Karibu. Yeah. So Annette, over to you.
Thank you very much. Kwanza niombe mnipigie makofi. I'm the only lady on stage. Makofi ya pili will be because I am pretending to represent the youth, although I don't fit that age bracket. Makofi, please. Na makofi ya tatu is just for yourself. Clap for yourselves. Thank you very much. So we'll dive right in, and I will start with you, Prof. Prof number 1, then we have Prof number 2, and upcoming Prof. So over the week, we had a number of conversations with youth, with people from industry, and something that was very interesting was said by a student from the University of Dar es Salaam yesterday, which was along the lines of they go to class, they have to attend sessions simply because the curriculum tells them to do so. They are not particularly interested in those things, and they feel like there's a level of misalignment between what youth want in terms of where the world is going with technology and innovation and what they are required to do. So my question is, as the person responsible with the ministry, how are we, setting up ourselves as a country to ensure that we are delivering for the youth and we are setting ourselves up for a future that is tech-driven, but then really starting from the education level, looking at universities and delivering things that are relevant and interesting for the youth?
Okay, so very good to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you, UNDP, Vodacom, UNICEF, UK, and everybody. And I'm happy to be in the same room with my former classmate, Tax. Good to see you. Now, first of all, education is important. Almost everything we teach is quite important. What we need to do, first of all, is to increase the choice of what one can pursue. Of late, people have been talking ill of education as if it is not at all useful unless it is just skills intensive, but we forget that mathematics, for instance, at the university, there was a time people thought that it is totally irrelevant. Today we are talking about AI and how do you develop AI algorithm if you are not good at mathematics. So the first thing is to ensure that we actually increase the choices so that young people can choose things they feel is relevant to them. But the second thing that we are doing is to increase industrial linkages with what we are teaching. And all universities now are being supported to ensure that they form a strong link between departments that offer certain courses and industries. For instance, if you are doing marketing at the universities, that you should have links with companies that are dealing with marketers directly. There are courses that automatically are linked with the industry. For instance, medicine, you will not pursue medical studies if you don't have a teaching hospital. But unfortunately, there has been time that you'll just study economics without having any link with a banking system and so on and so forth. Agriculture, you need to be linked with the industry. So one of the things we are doing under higher education for economic transformation is to fund processes of establishing links with the industry. And we hope that will generate, first of all, feedback loop between the university and the industry. University observing what the industry needs, but the industry also see what the university is offering, and I hope that will create an environment that will be useful to the youth.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. I think we link what you just said to the question I'm going to pose to Prof. Sakitila. Yes, we have, right now, I think if I have my statistics right, almost 56,000 young people graduate from higher learning institution at the moment. And those are joining about 1.2, I think that's where the numbers are, 1 million young people joining the labor market. We know that our economy, as much is very well doing well in terms of growth, it cannot accommodate everyone within the formal employment. So we are pushing towards them being able to start their own business, grow them, but that depends on the business environment. That's now where I come to you. At the moment, I know that the ministry is spearheading a lot of reforms, but I would like to hone into those that focus on early stage businesses, youth-led businesses, whether there's something we can actually do to create as many opportunities as possible for these youth-led businesses. Karibu, Prof.
Asante sana. Thank you also for having me on this platform. It is always very refreshing talking to young people, because that gives us assurance that the future is secured. It is true that the center of our economic policy development at the moment are on trade and investment climate. This is key so that we are able to promote entrepreneurship. We are also able to promote business. We are also able to promote investment in the country. So regarding the young people, especially at the stage of startups, two things. Number one, only a few years ago, even the word startup was not part of our development discourse. It is only now, honestly, it is around 2020, that is when this idea of startup started to be common in our development discourse. So the first thing that we're doing is to really come up with a solid policy on starting business, especially on the question of startups. And I think we are quite advanced. This is being hosted by the Prime Minister's office. I know that the policy is at the last stages. And the good thing is that this policy initiative was actually championed by young people and by members of the Startup Association themselves. The second issue is the question of capital. That has been a big issue for startups, of course also for other businesses in the country. So what we are doing, we have decided to create a special fund for innovators, for business startups, and in that fund we are going to have a special window for startups, so that at least we provide some assurance for capital, because that is a very big struggle. Young people come up with brilliant ideas, but they do not have access to capital, and that is a big problem in our country at the moment. So the government is taking that particular initiative to support the private sector. But thirdly, as the Minister of Education was saying here, is to ensure that our training systems are linked with the industries, so that the private sector, the industries, feel obliged to support the start of business, to support the early innovators, because these are going to be the innovators in their industries going forward. So these are some of the initiatives that we're actually trying to champion as a government, but also in partnership with the private sector.
Jirani yangu? Yes. So today I'll just be picking words from what I've been hearing all week. So people who are speaking, I'm here to represent them. And one person said, you know, Tanzania, our population, if you were to line us up in a line, almost every other person in that line will be a youth. Because we are a very youthful nation. Yeah? So almost every other person atakuwa ni kijana. Now, this is an engine of the nation, right? So maybe you can just share with us what strategies or, you know, what initiatives are you taking at your ministry level to tap into this engine and to turn it into a job creation opportunity, particularly looking at, we have all these things around technology, innovation, and startups, which we just talked about. So how are we tapping into this to create jobs that are really relevant to technology as well as innovation?
Thank you very much. As I've been introduced before, honorable distinguished guests. Going direct to the question, it is true that the population of Tanzania youth takes almost 30.5%. And given the fact that of the age above 35, I mean the age between 18 years to 35 and above, it takes almost 77% of the youth. That means it's a very vital population representation of the country, and as also the vanguard of change for the national driven economy. We have a set of strategies at the ministry, and going in line with what the other ministries have, as it has been well pointed by the professors before, because under the Prime Minister's office is the office in accordance with the Constitution is responsible to supervise all the government functions and all the matters of policy and implementation of issues. Among others are the ministries built under the supervision of the Prime Minister's office. And first of all, what it as a start, well, in order to catch up with the speed of the world today in the changing and tremendous changes in the technological advancement and science and technology, we started with the national policy for the youth of 2007, but we made an amendment, and it has been, the amendment was triggered with the fast changing world today. And in the amendment of the policy, what were the key factors that made us to do so? It was to make sure that the youth are engaged in the whole process of the evolving world in terms of science and technology. And it was an inclusive process that we made sure almost all the youth in different places, only those who are in the remote areas, of which it might be the fact inside here, they're not here some, and is this, even this discussion, it might target directly to those who are a little bit light or educated. But those who are in remote areas, which are difficult to reach sometimes and difficult even to manage, they were to be represented to make sure that the police should target all the youth groups in whatever the forms that they are. And the key points that we are to point out first is to identify them and to put the youth that they should have self-awareness of themselves, to see how the government can engage them, and they have a sense of being involved in the process of running their own country. And secondly, after having that, they have a self-awareness of the youth in different places, to show them the opportunities that they have. Because most of the youth, they have dreams. They have their target. They wanna do something this nation. But how then we can align them? So you have to identify them through the police, then you have to align them with the self-recognition, self-awareness, and secondly, take them to give them a facilitation now, creating an enabling environment by the government. And that's what has been pointed out in the policy that we have made. And this included the youth. It was a representative sample that we took, where 49,000 plus youth were involved in the process of giving ideas on how their policy should be and how they should be engaged by the government. And some, almost like 23,000, give their opinion through media platforms to make sure that they have a policy. Now, having made a good policy now for the youth, which is in line, that has to cover all the issues domestically to see what is inside, what are the opportunities to unlock the potentials in the country, and then to open up in the municipal level, maybe continents and Africa and everything, and in the world, to make sure that always, in whatever that is made or planned by the government, youth are to be included. And the other thing that was also pivotal to make sure that we engage, it was the other stage that, of course, Professor, I think in the latter stage he point out better, that he has also made amendment, policy, I mean the curriculum, I think it's the curriculum that has made an amendment so that it can be hand in hand and to be in line with what the world today needs. And to the office of Honorable Professor on planning, they go hand to hand, the Prime Minister's office. What is planned by the office of the Honorable High Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, and what is in the curriculum, the Prime Minister's office is now to make sure that you supervise on the implementation and to give up what is being expected to make sure that the youth are given opportunities, are being facilitated in financial issues, like Professor has pointed out before, that those startup capitals, to make some other plans like financial policies. We have this local government, we have in regional administratives in the local government, we have several set of strategies to make sure that we empower the youth and facilitate them even financially. Like the 10%, that is very prominent, known as 442. It is given, the whole accumulation of the money that has been brought from the district councils, there is 10% of the revenue that goes to the women and the youth. And the youth, they have a allocation of 5%, and even including the persons with disability, that gets almost 2% of the fund. That have to make a good light up and go to do anything if they have any program, be it in entrepreneurship, be it in innovation or creativity, any other skills. But also we have some other several arrangements. We have the Youth Development Fund, of which of late, it has been given more than 1.2 billion for the youth all over the country. Whoever that has a plan, he'll be given money. In the district, every district, we have more than 195 district councils in Tanzania mainland. We have that arrangement of 10%, giving them as a capital or loan to give them without even interest. More than 36.5 billion has been given in the year 2024-2025, and that has been all given to the youth. So these are the plans that the government has. Let alone we have students higher learning. We have a students higher learning loan board that also has been allocated 788 billion for the youth who are in schools, including those who are interested in the areas of science and technology. And there are a lot of set of arrangements, but for the sake of time, maybe if I'll come again and I will proceed on this. Thank you.
Yeah, asante sana mheshimiwa. Nadhani for the sake of, because it's a dialogue, right? And nadhani mmesikia, there is a lot of money out there. The government has money. So it's up to you guys to come up with a good plan. But what we would like this conversation actually to achieve is also to be able to hear from you guys. What can the government better do to leverage on all these resources which are available? Number two, it's not every time that you have actually 3 ministries here. So I think they are open to listening. Na ninavyowafahamu, the 3 gentlemen, hawagopi maswali magumu. We can ask those questions and be critical. So what you want to achieve basically to understand or to converse what will it take to build a future-ready and inclusive innovation economy. So I would like to open it up to the audience before we come back to the stage so you can ask them directly. So karibu. The mics, please.
I see.
Nice. I think we can start with the ladies, right?
Okay.
Because they are underrepresented here.
Aha, I like that. I like that reasoning. Okay, so I'll start with, yeah?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Filda Swai, and I would like to pose a question to the Minister of Education, Science and Technology, Honorable Professor Adolf Mkenda. So as we work towards building a future-ready Tanzania, nutrition plays a critical role in improving learning outcomes and long-term national productivity. with the growing role of innovation in education, how is the ministry supporting or planning to support innovative models like tech-enabled school feeding programs that aim to enhance the provision of school meals in public schools? And how can change makers in this space engage formally with the government to drive forward the provision of school meals in public schools? Thank you.
I would request that we try to be not necessarily brief, but succinct and articulate your question well so that they can give you real answers so that we can hold them to it. Yeah?
Thank you. My name is Emmanuel Seni from Dodoma. And my question goes directly to the Ministry of Education. Probably if I could put it in Swahili so that it could be well understood. Kuna uwezekano gani wa Wizara ya Elimu, Sayansi na Teknolojia kuanzisha mfuko na universities kwa ajili ya kuendeleza project zao, na immediately baada ya kugraduate kutoka kwenye level ya education tusianze kufikiri kutafuta ajira, bali tuweze kuendeleza projects zao walizotoka nazo katika level ya chuoni ama shuleni. Asanteni sana.
For the benefit of our partners, if I understood the question correctly, the possibility of the ministry, to establish an innovation fund, but that would be targeting students in schools, colleges, and universities. Okay, awesome. Sorry guys, I need to go to that side. 3 questions. I'm trying to be fair, okay? Sorry, I was told ladies.
Thank you. My name is Mohoria Machera and I work in the education sector. So as we know that for an economy to thrive, we need a thriving human capital. And a thriving human capital comes from education. And I think the Minister of Education for debunking some of the myths that are around the education sector. So my question is, with the new reform that is going on in Tanzania, how is the education sector preparing the teachers to upgrade, to be along with the innovation system that is coming along? Thank you very much.
Girl child, you did me proud. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think 3 first. We'll respond and then we go back, eh?
Yeah, so far we have, I think, questions to Professor Mkenda. If we could get questions for the other 2 and then we can respond and come back to the audience. If there's anyone who has got a question from Professor Tila Mkumbo.
So 1 for PMO and 1 for Mipango. I'm sure you would love that, but no, we're not letting you off the hook that easy. Okay, so Mipango? Okay.
Yeah, nashukuru sana. My name is Gerard. Hii nakwenda kwa Mipango na Brother Katambi sababu umesema kuna mapesa mengi sana. The only way we go to the parliament to tap this money ni kuwaomba wananchi hizo hela. Lakini kwenye zile kamati za bunge nyingi zile, sijaona kamati ya science and technology. Sijui kama ipo au haipo, mnaomba mnieleweshe sababu nafikiri hapo ndo mahali ambapo wabunge watakuwa wanaenda kutap hizo potential na opportunities na kuzifuatilia ili ziweze kuwa sustainable. Kwa nafikiri ningependa kusikia kama kamati ipo au haipo, basi tutaweza kupata huo uelewa. Nashukuru sana.
Question on a parliamentary committee on science and technology. Do you have anything for Professor Kitila? Aha, good.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be part of the person to contribute something which is very viable for the country. I've seen this happening in the agriculture. There's BRT, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, PPT. Yes, whereby the young graduates having plots of lands, they're equipped to make sure that they are sustainable and they can add value to the economy of the country. Then as in agriculture is concerned, do we have a plan for investing larger, like investing, instead of having these small graduates, young graduates for small plots, but bigger investment related to maybe 100 acres, 300 acres, proper equipment, you know, with the best harvesting. I mean, I'm talking about the products will be really competing to the global market so that we are able to compete globally rather than just selling to neighboring country to be of the first grade competition. Is there any plan for that? To have a large agricultural investment for graduates? Sure, thank you.
So just to put it into context, I suppose that would be on the point that we're trying to achieve when it comes to cross-ministerial and cross-sector collaboration, because he's not agriculture. But he can definitely respond in terms of how they're working together with the Ministry of Agriculture. Okay, so you said, yeah, I stop there, Annette?
Yeah, for now, maybe,
For
and then
now?
we can come back.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe we can give a chance to Professor Mkenda, and then if there's any addition from the other ministries, they can add on that. Karibu.
Okay, thank you. Maybe because I host the examination councils, that's why. So the first observation, to be honest, was apt, that school feeding, nutrition is critical, not only for education, for overall development of a person, particularly children and the young people. The challenge is to ensure that within our schooling system, we have school feeding. And the question, I think if I got it correctly, what are the innovative approach that we are using to ensure school feeding? Well, that's a difficult one, and I thought we were supposed to be asked the simple questions. We're trying, first of all, to remind parents that it is their responsibility, after all, to ensure that their children have something to eat. When we talk about fee-free education, people confound it with free education in the sense that there is no responsibility from the parents at all. And we still use uniforms that are bought by the parents, books also supported by parents. School feeding, there's responsibility of the parents. What I know now within communities, there are local regulations and enforcement mechanism to ensure that parents actually contribute to school feedings. We are trying also innovative approach by promoting school gardens to ensure that we can have supplies within the school. It will be a big challenge a little bit because it also goes with the level of income within the community. But we have evidence that school feeding actually enhances studies and this education outcome. The second one has to do with the supporting innovation in schools. COSTECH is doing that through different supports. With Makisatu, if you guys have been following, I'm sure you have been here discussing. When we start Makisatu, we encourage anybody, even farmers, those in schools and those outside the school, to participate. But for a long time, we observe that people come up with products, but they will not commercialize. And sometimes the product you see appear to me commercially viable. I remember a person who will use the plastic garbage and make pillars for carrying electricity. And when I asked this person, I said, this is very good, and I think TANROADS is already using it to put road signs. But I don't have money to have a bigger machine so that I can produce one for transmitting, to carrying electrical transmission. Well, part of it is to have entrepreneurship, which maybe later I'll explain what you are trying to implant within our education system, because once you have a product that is seemingly commercially viable, it should be possible actually to find ways of dealing with financial institutions. But fortunately, we have set up a fund now to help innovators commercialize their products. The fund was launched, when was it? Not a few weeks ago, a few months ago. In April, yes, exactly. And it's collaboration with CRDB Bank. So if you have your innovation that seems to be commercially viable, you can try that. You'll get interest-free funding. It's a revolving fund, so it can come back to support other people. We'll see how that works. But there is that big window that we have started. It's about 2.4 billion shillings. Preparation of teachers. Yes, it's also always important. We keep improving the way we prepare our teachers. So there, on one hand, the government is recruiting more teachers. On the other, we are finding better ways of ensuring that we have the best teachers in our school. That has proved to be a little bit controversial. But even then, we have upgraded the entry point to go for teachers training colleges, so trying to improve as we move on. And for new curriculum, we actually taking our teachers for retraining. Even though, to be honest, if we reorganize the curriculum for chemistry, we are not bringing any new knowledge that the teachers should not have learned in the education system. Sometimes it's the arrangement of topics, how you approach it, and so on and so forth. So it's not such a big deal. But we are retraining the teachers. We are trying to revamp our teachers training colleges, and I'll give you an example. If you go to Marangu College, where we used to teach language, we had a huge lab for language that has been run down completely. So when I visited, they said they now want to have a lab for physics and so on and so forth. I said, no, stick to languages. And what we are trying to do is to make that college focus on languages, Arabic, French, Chinese, English, with all those labs, so that we prepare teachers who can actually teach languages correctly. And because we want to promote Kiswahili at the same time, we must be able to have teachers who can train people. Those graduates of that college can also be interpreters in different conferences. So it is also a critical bit. And continuous training and retraining and teachers training centers that we have, what we call resource centers for teachers within the neighborhood, where teachers can stay together, try to exchange ideas, exchange notes on how they approach the subject in the classroom to see that they can manage. Of course, all these depends also on the class sizes, availability of infrastructure, library, books, and so on, inputs that we are also working on to ensure that we have sufficient for improving the teaching. I hope that is understood. I think there was one question, maybe I can just jump in and say, as of now, this ministry is Ministry of Education, Science and Technology. And the Parliamentary Standing Committee that deals with education also implicitly deals with science and technology. Maybe one can debate whether we should have separate committee to deal with that, so that we enhance or increase the visibility of science and technology, something that can be discussed. In South Africa, the former Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology, is now Minister of Science and Technology. So he has been to Tanzania twice as a Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology. We met in these buildings, and then he came the second time. He was only Minister of Science and Technology, and he was saying he feels lost. How does you are there, how can I connect science and technology to the industry without using universities and research institutions? And therefore, it's something that we need to debate. But visibility of science and technology, to be honest, is very important. And we are trying within our ministry now not only to focus on education. You will hear in our budget speech innovations that we are making to push forward issues of science, technology, and innovation. And that's how we came up with even the funding to support commercialization of innovations. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. I think wanaweza maswali marahisi sana. I mean, guys, we have professors here. I would like to make it a little bit difficult. I will come back to you. But maybe just to build on a question that was asked by the issue of investing in, I think he gave an example of agriculture. This is a question I would like to pose to Professor Kitila. Youth-led businesses and startups, for a very long time, the biggest cry is about capital. Not because there is lack of capital out there which actually can come in, but probably because of some, whether it's regulatory barriers which are in there. People have been giving examples. I'm not after anybody's job here, but like some of the hindrances where somebody wants to invest, like the regulatory threshold, like FCC and all that, I think people can actually ask for that. Like, what are we doing to make sure at least we get capital coming to Tanzania into startups by working on some of the technicalities to make it much easier? Now, I will build on the response we've just given Professor Mkenda about the visibility of science, technology, innovation. I think, well, it's commendable that the government has actually established a fully fledged directorate. Professor Mnyoni is doing a great job, to be honest. But sometimes I feel like education is such a large portfolio. And now having science, technology, innovation being part of it, like, okay, maybe sometimes we have to focus on what is big and this is more like an add-on. Is it something that government is thinking about if we are going to be an innovation-driven economy to actually have a whole portfolio focusing on that? It's something to think about. People are really arguing about that. So we can probably start with Professor Kitila and then go back.
First of all, I'm very pleased that a lot of people are paying attention to education. Because as you shall see when we unveil the Vision 2050, we are very ambitious that by 2050 we want to have an economy valued at $1 trillion from today's 85 billion. And that is quite ambitious. And initially, as a government, we had proposed around 500 to 700 billion shillings. But actually the business people, the private sector, a wide range of stakeholders, when we engaged, they said, no, you guys are not serious. They showed us the potential. Some modeling using artificial intelligence, given the current atmosphere of the economy of this country. And they showed very clearly that actually the economy can go beyond 1-point-something trillion by 2050. But there were very clear conditions for that to be achieved. And if I were to choose two things to be done to ensure that we are able to attain that ambition, it will be education and energy. And you will see when we unveil the vision that those are two areas that are given very high level of attention. The reason is, given our population, if we do not sufficiently invest in quality education at all levels, it is going to be catastrophic. Because as you correctly pointed out here, that the majority of our population are children and young people. So this country is very, childlike and very youthful. And the only way to avoid the catastrophe is to ensure that we are able to properly invest in their education. And that is what other countries did. So I'm so pleased that so many of you are paying attention to that area. Why energy? And we can talk this one a little bit later. Because in that vision, there is a lot of attention on creating a strong, inclusive, and globally competitive economy. And to be able to do that, a lot of things have been highlighted, but actually key is going to be manufacturing. And there is no way you can talk about manufacturing without proper investment in the energy sector. So those two is critical. Of course, the question of fertility rate will have to be addressed, because we talk about capital. One key source of capital is saving. Even before talking about attracting foreign direct investment, capital number one is from the families, and that comes from people being able to save. And evidence shows very clearly that saving is correlated with the number of children that a family has. It is very common sense. If I have 3 children and you have 10 children and we are earning the same level of income, I will be able to save more than you having 10 children. You will be spending all your money to service your children. But also in terms of the country, to be able to sustain our economy, to be able to provide optimal levels of government service, education, health, and others, the number of children that we are able to handle is key. And I think that our fertility now is around 4.8, almost 5 children. And research shows that once you start having more than 3.1 or below 2.1 is a problem. So I mean, if you go to Gator, it's not 4.8, it's around 7 plus. So these 3 factors, education, energy, fertility rate, will be key in terms of realizing that particular vision. Now, you know, the portfolio that I'm having is a portfolio which requires me to know something about everything. So I'm not going to hesitate responding to this question of agriculture, even though Caroline is saying that the Minister of Agriculture is not here. So the Minister of all things is here. So again, in our development process, agriculture remains key. And actually we identified it as sector number 1. Why? Because so many of our people are still in the agricultural sector. But 2, even when we talk about industrial revolution, there is no way you can achieve industrial revolution in a country like Tanzania without, first of all, achieving agricultural revolution. Because at the moment, more than 65% of our raw materials in our industries are coming from the agriculture. So agriculture remains key and is going to be key going forward. We foresee that the level of contribution of the agricultural sector is going to start declining after 2050. But for now, going forward, is going to be very core. And thankfully, we are already doing pretty well, because going forward, our vision is to ensure that Tanzania becomes a food basket by 2050 in Africa, and becomes among the top 3 producers globally. Also very ambitious. But of course, it's achievable, because as we speak now, Tanzania is number 1 in terms of producing maize in Africa. Number 2 in sisal. Number 3 in, I think, in avocado. So there are many areas that we are already doing very well, even at the level that we are having. So what we are doing now, the gentleman asked about why are we only paying attention to this small agricultural activity subsistence. That is key, it's important, but we're going to modernize. But I want to give you consolation that we already, really, government has been able to attract serious investors in agriculture already. For example, if you go to Mkulazi in Morogoro, we just have 3 investors who are having 30,000 hectares, soybean, sugarcane, and other agricultural products. We have earmarked about 5 mabondes. What is that in English? Valleys. That are going to be, the main, focus in terms of irrigation. So we're going to have these small irrigation schemes, but we're identifying 5 of them that we think, so one is Rufiji, the other one is Songwe, and the other 3, I can't remember quickly. Those are going to be large agricultural farms, so that, we can use those 3 to feed the country, to even export agricultural product going forward. And of course, also continue to support our subsistence farmers in terms of modernization. Kwa hivyo, so that is what we are trying to do. And to answer your question, one of the issues in agriculture is that, I was reading a report the other day, we have around more than 50 regulators in the agricultural sector. If you begin in agriculture today in this country, you'll be facing about 50 regulators. So people who are most resilient in this country are the farmers. And atakuwa pigiwa makofi mengi sana. So that is issue number 1 we have to deal with. We have to liberalize and we have to free the agricultural sector so that our farmers are able to undertake the agricultural activity with great freedom without too much interference from the government. Hili ni eneo ambalo lazima tulifanyie kazi sana kwa sababu ni changamoto. Kwa hiyo, just quickly, that is what we are trying to do.
Joseph, I just wanted to add into something, Professor, about what I was thinking before, and you kind of ended on the same note, on over-regulation. And, you know, agencies and ministries of government not talking to each other. If an investor comes today and they have a plan, whatever they need to do, Kianza Brela, when they step your appeal, you have to do name EIA, all of these things, and the information is not coordinating. So it can be very discouraging for investors. Either it's the small investors who want to invest in our startups, or they want to just invest in big projects. Now, as the authority figure, you know, for investment and planning, what strategies are you having to ensure that we break these silos and enhance communication intergovernmental?
So, two things. Number one, there is an institution called Tanzania Investment Center. Already, from last year, we have put in that institution 14 regulatory authorities that an investor, once he comes in this country, he doesn't have to go around, including BRELA, TRA, REV, and many others. 14 of them, one-stop center at the TIC. And I have been a Minister of Investment 2 times. Initially 2020, and now. And they're very different, because when I was meeting investors in 2020, they were utterly complaining about Tanzania Investment Center. Today, I meet them, they are very seriously praising the Tanzania Investment Center. The problem is somewhere else. So we have a serious one-stop center at the Tanzania Investment Center, and this year, we are going to add more institutions. The aim from the government is to ensure that investors are able to access all government services under one roof. And in the next 5 years, we are saying at least 50% of all government services must be accessed digitally. And by 2050, 100%. So, you know, so that the government, instead of people following the government must be following the people. And that is possible. You don't have to wait mpaka saa 3:30 mpaka saa 11. I mean, you should be able to access your government at any time. Hata usiku ukiamka saa 8 unapata huduma ya serikali. So that is so we are doing improvement, and we are even going to do bigger. You are aware that we have already merged 2 important investment institutions, Tanzania Investment Center and the EPZDA. Now we have what we call Tanzania Investment and Special Economic Zones Authority under one roof. Going forward, we also want to bring together even the trade institutions ziwe kwenye under one arm, so that we are able to serve our investors both locally and internationally much more easily. So going forward, we will see a lot of reforms around these issues.
Thank you so much. Professor Mukeda, sijasahau swali langu. STI education, this is such a big portfolio. Are you thinking about kind of having STI more visible in such a way before we can go to Honorable Katambi? Karibu.
It is something to think about, but I gave an experience of South Africa. It's a large country. So the same minister who was Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology, and we met in London, then we met here. And this time when he came, he was a Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. And he told me, I feel lost because entry points are very difficult to sustain. Remember, when we are talking about science, it cannot just be discharged by one ministry. Ministry of Agriculture has TARI, Tanzania Agricultural Research Institutes. You go to the Ministry of Livestock, they have also institutions dealing with research and so on and so forth. What is needed is COSTECH to be able to handle, which they are trying to do, to coordinate all of them. If you are told that you are a Minister of Science, you are sitting alone, you are going to find it a little bit tricky how to really connect with that. I'm not sure about the answer, correct answer. I'm saying about the experience I got from South Africa. What we are trying to do in the ministry right now, you'll hear us talking more and more about science, technology, and innovation. We had e-learning Africa meeting here. All we are discussing is about digital economy, and transformation. We have Makisatu that is becoming quite vibrant in the country. We are starting scholarships now for science to encourage students in STEM to pursue science subjects. But now we have opened up a window to send our youth overseas to study in issues of science and technology. And while at it, let me explain a little bit. You know, we have complained, and today I was talking with the Higher Education Students Loan Board. And one of the things we are discussing is about youth who they need the loan, they do not get sufficient loan to study. And we have scholarships abroad that we fail to take. Professor Mkumbo was telling me about Russia, the number of scholarships. We were in Saudi Arabia. We have over 100 scholarships which we fail to partake. UK, Chevni, Commonwealth application from Tanzania are very limited. So we have collected all the scholarships we have offered to Tanzania in the world, Hungary, Romania, and so on. And the percentage of Tanzanians who actually apply for those scholarships is very limited in China and so on. So what we are trying to do, first of all, as we say, we are going to look at the best performing students in science, and we're focusing on science only. And we will shortlist them, we'll ask those who want to go and study abroad. But they must be willing to stay about 10 months in a boot camp, which will be in the Nelson Mandela African Institute of Science and Technology in Arusha, where we'll prepare them with digital literacy, we'll help them with language, culture, patriotism, also awareness. If you go to other people's country, financial literacy also, how you make sure that your stipend will last you for the time you stay there. But what we want to do is to use, first of all, those scholarships that exist and make sure that we send kids to do the areas that we choose. And our top choice is data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the like. So we'll collect them, put them there, help them to apply, make sure that they go. We have set aside funding for that, and we have partners that are going to do that. Now, I'm thinking if you disconnect science from education, maybe it will have more visibility, more focus, but the instrument to which you can influence human capital in the youth will be denied to you. You'll have to partner with the Ministry of Education to ensure you can do exactly what you are doing in terms of offering scholarships, in terms of using them to put them in at the university and so on, and shaping our curriculum along those ways. Having said that, it is open to debate what needs to be done. What we are going to do for us, and we are determined to do, is to make sure that while education, a huge chunk of it is managed by the local government authorities, which means the Ministry of Education actually deals with policy, the law, and the other directives, while implementation is within the local government authority, and higher education mostly are almost self-managing. Universities, they are kind of autonomous the way they run things. We have space for us also to increase our attention to science, technology, and innovation. Maybe we need to do much, much more. Or maybe we need to experiment, because in the past you have had Ministry of Communication, Science and Technology before. We can just look at the performance then, and then there was a time we had Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology. We can also look at how it performed, and now where we are starting with Samia Scholarship, we are sending our youth to do nuclear sciences abroad. We have 5 scholarships now every year. We are going to expand that in the data science project, which I think is going to be quite big, sending about 100 youth and more as years go on. But more important, supporting innovation, not only innovation, but commercialization of innovation. You will have many innovators, but the percentage of the innovation that are going to be commercially viable will be quite limited. So those limited opportunities that are available, we should be able to push them, to support them to go into the market. Did I answer the question? No, I'm just yes, I'm trying to show both sides of the shillings, and that our history as a nation, we have gone through all those phases. We have had science and technology in a different ministry. We have had science and technology with higher education. We have science and technology within this huge, humongous ministry that covers everything. And perhaps we can learn and see how we can move forward.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Yes.
I'm glad it's open to debate. But thank you. That's a very elaborate response.
Yes. I think I'll just ask one question and then we can take it back to the audience so that we get their comments and inputs. Jirani yangu, once again. So Professor Mkenda just told us that, there are areas that we are focusing on in terms of higher learning, data science, machine learning, and things like that, which are all very critical. Now, my question to you is, how are we also engaging youth to ensure that we get their voices in terms of what they want? Because that is what we want out of them, because we've looked at the bigger picture and they are important. Yeah, but then there are other things that are also important to them. So how are we engaging youth to get what they want? And maybe I'll just pose a little example. And once again, if you've heard me talk about this before, just ignore it, because I sound like a broken record. I was on a session yesterday, and we had a speaker from Finland. And he was telling us, he did a case study of how they have digitized their nation. And he gave an example of how in 2020, when they were introducing one of their digital registers, I don't remember the actual words, COVID hit, and there was a lot of setback in terms of adoption. So when they started doing research and they engaged people, so like, okay, we have the digital register, it has all your records, but how can we better improve it? And they realized there is a need for a mandate register. So what a mandate register does is like your power of attorney. So I can give somebody my mandate to do my tax returns, to collect my medical records, personal information. So as a result, from a country that has a population of 5.6 million, as of early this year, they've had 46 million mandate registered booked in the system, which shows there was a critical need for that service, but then they only realized that when they engaged the people. So that's why I'm coming back to that question. Yes, we're thinking of what we want as a country, as a nation, but how are we also engaging the youth to ensure that as we're thinking of this education agenda, of the innovation agenda, we are getting what they want and making it part of the national agenda?
Thank you. It is straightforward, as I said before, that in the policy-making process, it involved the youth. And on how the government can help the youth to get what they want, it is basically, it is been written in its constitutional thing, Article 11 of the Constitution, that the government has a duty to create enabling or conducive environment for the people, including the youth. One among the set of strategies that the government has made in fulfilling its legal obligation of making sure that it gives the support. That's a big thing, that it has to give a support or enabling environment. One among others of the support that it gives so that the youth, they can get what they want. It is to make the policies and the plan of action to make sure that the youth population, through research, they get what they want. One, we always conduct a labor force survey. And two, we have a manpower survey that gives the details, and it tells inside it how many youth do we have as for the census report. As I told you, it's 34.5 per population. But how many are high-skilled? How many are semi-skilled? And how many are unskilled? And where are these youths? Because some are in educational platform. You have to make arrangement and make programs and plans that will foster them to get what they want in education. Professor said that here, they have several arrangements for sponsorship. Another one in science and technology, there is the known Samia Scholarship. It is under the Ministry of Education. So all the ministries and the Prime Minister's office, as he said, the master of all, Honorable Professor Kitila, is a minister of all ministries. That and also the Prime Minister's office is to make sure that all the ministerial sectors, make sure that they make plans in line to encompassing the needs of the youth. For example, in agriculture, as my brother has pointed out, that we are giving a little bit, maybe portion of rent. It even go beyond there, as Professor said. But the plan under agriculture is that we understand most of the country, you can see in Tanzania, almost 70% of the population is engaged or involved in agriculture, and even the youth are there. And if we come to mining in the places that we have minerals, we have also a plan that to make sure that the youth who have intention of maybe practicing in mining or in mineral sectors, they have a slot as well. We have a program that is called the Mining for Brighter Tomorrow. The Mining for Brighter Tomorrow, it is the duty of the government first to recognize the number of the youth that were interested in the mining sector, being given licenses for free to make sure that they have a license, a portion of lands to make their mining procedures, but they are being given training funded by the government. They're being given machines and tools for mining. In the Ministry of Livestock and Fishing, we have another program again for the youth who are interested on what they want. If they want fishing, they want maybe rearing cattle, we have a program again of, it's called the Building Better Tomorrow, BBT Life. Life is for them that are being taken at the Prime Minister's office and are taken to different, we have universities like, I cannot say university, but it's kind of tertiary schools, are being taken, maybe they apply and go to school. They've been trained on how they can make a cage fishing. In the lake zone areas, we have done so, and even more than 100 Tanzanian youth, they were beneficiaries. And we have another ministry, like in the ministry of, in the same ministry, 10.3 billion was allocated for and was disbursed for the youth to go on that program. And those who are in the line of education, as I said, is 788 million, and 88 billion that was allocated for the youth who need to pursue the education line. And in another ministry, also in the Ministry of Sports and the Culture as well, the government has disbursed 5 billion to make sure that all the youths who maybe are the artists, they want to get a loan or some money for their startup projects, or is upscaling loan are being given, again, supported by the government. So the government is always almost everywhere, because the youth, they are not only those who are in the line of education. We understand some, they are not educated, and we have another arrangement by the government under the Prime Minister's office. It's called, I think, Mfuko wa Uwezeshaji Wananchi Kiuchumi, Fostering Fund. In the year from 2021 to date, it was disbursed 3 trillion by the government. And this 3 trillion by the government benefited 24 million Tanzanians, including youth, including persons with disability, including the elders. And we have several, and even the elderly ages, they have in TASAF and everywhere. So the police can determine the need. We always do the need assessment of the youth to understand what are the challenges that they have, and this is inclusive. We sometimes even do more, even go beyond that. We do research and see the best practices. As we can see, maybe, for instance, in China, the total population of China is even more, maybe better. I don't know the current report, but of late, it was, they were about I think 1.4 billion. So 1.4 billion is almost the whole population of Africa by number. And same in India, 1.3 billion. But you cannot hear if they have challenges of unemployment and even more maybe underemployment. So we always do research to make sure that and see the best practice to copy on the best practice that others are solving the problems of the youth. We understand the unemployment problem is very big right now. So with the commitment of the government, and my friend has asked that if there is that outstanding committee of the parliamentary outstanding committee for the for science and technology, it is there. It's under Professor Mkenda as the minister as well, because science and technology also is the minister for education science and technologies as well. So almost a lot, Tanzania, we have done more, but we understand that a lot also remain to be done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Honorable. I think we have done more, but I agree that there is a lot that remains to be done, and the opportunities are immense. I think from your submission, you said they talked about creative economy, green economy, digital economy, and all the potential. Maybe what we would also like to hear, in addition to the questions from the audience, is how we can contribute to the government to make all these massive programs more efficient and probably achieve more impact. Because we have a lot of initiatives, but we believe we can do a lot more with that. So maybe we would also want to hear from the audience. Karibu.
Hey, I like that. Okay, where do I start? I think I ended on this side, so I'll go on this side first. No, it was here? Okay.
Okay. My suggestion, as you said, kwamba the government has a lot of plans na
Samahani, kama ungeza na jina lako wakutambue, wajue ni nani anaongea.
Naitwa Lucy Shantiwa, natokea CFA Society, Chartered of Financial Analysts based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Okay, personally mimi nimekuwa kwenye sekta ya education and basically na education and service provider na deal zaidi na student, but basically on the side of investment. And first, kwanza nashukuru kwanza hakunichagua because kukaa imesababisha nimejua kwamba there is some initiatives serikali imekuwa inaendelea kufanya. But what I think kuna some gap ambayo maybe government should look over it na kuweka weka nguvu zaidi kwenye sekta hizo husika. Mfano, we are now having sessions tunaita kitu research challenge for university students, and it is a global competition. Na kwa Tanzania we have been enrolling university students. For the first time, once we engaged students here in Tanzania, we got 16 universities that were enrolled in that session. But the second year, which was this year, the competition ended March, we only being able to accommodate 8 universities. The main issue was issue of our students here in Tanzania. They had, kulikuwa kuna kitu they are lacking of when they go to compete globally. That is, our education was not preparing to go and compete globally. So another thing is maybe as my point ni kumpatia.
Sorry, in the interest of time, if you can be a bit concise, because
okay,
we also acknowledge that they are not
yes,
here.
Kwamba many reforms are supposed to be done on our education platforms. Bado kuna shida. Hatuwaandai wanafunzi wetu to go to compete further kwenye education. Mfano
kama kwenye nini kwa sababu mheshimiwa yuko hapa nasikiliza.
We give education platforms zetu zinatoa zaidi theoretical, haziwapi nafasi haziwapi nafasi wanafunzi kupata practical knowledge. You see, sometimes maybe you see a student from University of Dar es Salaam anasoma banking and finance, ukienda ukamweka bank, they don't have an idea what's going on. So I think this is where the gap is. The education sector should have to think a way to put more capacity building techniques on that.
Asante. Maybe tuende kwa mwingine.
Asante sana. Wakati tunaendelea kuangalia mikono, naenda kwa Arafat kwanza. Tuwe tunapata pia taarifa kama Watanzania. Kuna new National Education Curriculum Framework imetoka. Kuna sera mpya tumeilaunch hapa juzi. Kuna vitu vingi sana ambavyo vinafanya ku address the same thing that you have just asked about. So I think, can I also task ourselves as a society, as a community, to also be deliberate when we look for information and keep ourselves updated and informed? Because to be honest, the government is doing a lot on this front. So why we don't know, why we're not aware, that's another discussion. But there is a lot going on.
Asante sana. My name is Arafat Lesheve and I come from Save the Children Tanzania. I think my comment goes to in terms of the Minister of Youth, Prime Minister's Office, Youth, Youth, Labor and People with Disability. I think there is a way when it comes to young people, we say that there's money that goes to young people. But we forget that when these young people, they go to come up with innovation, they bring up innovative idea. When they start the innovation, there's a big tax burden. When, for example, like an innovator, I go to innovate my own idea, I start my own business, but is there a room whereby this ministry could really work closely with even like TRIA to see how can we reduce the tax burden to these young innovators, at least even for 1 year, to really come up and to build themselves to be able to fight with other big markets in that aspect. So I think that's something that we need to think beyond when we are now trying to see how are we supporting the young innovators in this country to really all be able to fight with other innovators, other founders, other investors. But the second thing is also we have a local policy called local content policy, which really emphasizes on any investors come to this country to ensure that we also create employment to other young people in the community. But in my little bit of research, my even academic research in school, but when we go to these big companies that invest in our country, we see there's a lot of jobs that can be employed to local young people, but they're employed to other external people. How are we maintaining these things to really ensure that the local people, young people specifically, are getting the jobs through even the local content policy, even the productions that they're supplying those services? You can find that big companies that are supplying, even like tomatoes are coming from different countries. So this is something that we really think, how could we invest to also, I think, connect with the different ministry planning and also Ministry of the Youth. Thank you.
Carol, let's try this side too.
Sorry?
After that one, let's try this side.
Yeah, I'm coming on this side. There's a gentleman I've already identified who has been trying to give me eye radiation. The way he's been looking at me, I'm like, okay, if I don't give him the mic.
Hello. My name is Shirhan Sher Mohammed. I'm coming from a company called EX Revolution, a startup. I have a few questions directly going to Honorable Professor Kitila regarding, especially we're already on the, talking about Future Ready Summit. We are on a Future Ready Summit. How is the government working to ensure the government management systems are robust in terms of leveraging the new technologies such as AI and blockchain? And then second of all, I'll just keep that one.
Okay, so because you ended there, so I'll give this side one more. Okay, yeah, please go ahead, Alex.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. My name is Jones Mbrusha, technologist retiring as a farmer. I hear problems. Even Professor Kitila Mkumbo is telling the same problem that I know. I need 32 papers to take the container off the port in Dar es Salaam. We are looking at potentially future-ready, inclusive, innovative economy. I have a suggestion for my people in my AMCOS, where we're very innovative about how we go about these things. When we export raw coffee, we get $4. If we export processed, and you all agree, if you look at the TDV 2050, at least the version that you have already shared, Minister Mkumbo, it's insist on those agricultural processing mini industries. But for us to get there, we also need to comply to the standards of where we're exporting. And individually, we cannot set up infrastructure that the Europeans, the Americans will come in satisfy to import ready-to-eat food. Would you look at potentially one of the solutions is to change the investment you're doing into these industrial parks to allow us, with the support of the government, to set up standardized, certified industries that we can just move in to process to unlock the potential of us importing into American, Asia, and Europe markets. Thank you. As a suggestion.
Okay. So we take two, or do we go to respond
Let's take
first?
2 more questions and then come back to the stage.
Yeah, I see more hands. Okay, this time it's this side. Sorry, guys. Going to and then I'll come here.
Hi, my name is Emmanuel Finance. I'm techpreneur and researcher by profession. Well, Professor Kitila, you raised such an amazing issue regarding regulatory, but I have a question. For example, we are in startup association. We've been facing certain regulations. We're innovation. We're being led by laws from 5 decades back then, and we're current in innovations. How can it be possible? But also, in America, there's this law called Federal Tort of Claims. If the administrative have created an regulation that is not, that hinders innovations, individuals have the capacity to raise concerns and challenge the government. Is your government willing to go beyond and create that? But also, this is personal. Can you respond to my appointment letter sent to your office, please? Thank you.
I like that. I like Sasa, name. Remind him of the name again. What should we look out for? The name.
Emmanuel Finance Maunganya.
And the startup in this letter for the appointment?
Align Technologies.
Right. Professor Meksoma, you
want to summarize these first two questions? Yeah, appointment. The first two questions.
If you can repeat the first two questions, summarize them.
Well, to make it short, kwa mfano Marekani wana kitu wanaita Federal Tort of Claims. Serikali inaporegulate vitu, and I've been a victim. Naweza nikwambia tumetoka LATRA, we had a ride hailing application. LATRA wanakuambia you need to own 10 HICEs za 2020. That was 100 million per one HICE. So I'm a startup. I'm even broke. I don't have any money. How could you tell me to own 10 HICEs? That was 1 billion. You are hindering innovation. So, tunaweza tukawa na hii a special committee ambayo inaweza challenge government regarding regulations. This is how you can streamline innovation and pave a way economic growth. Kwa sababu, despite of whatever you're doing, if the regulations still hinders innovation, there's nothing. We cannot step forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay.
So, Carol, maybe we can come back to the state to respond, and then if they allow us for more questions, we can come to that.
Okay.
So,
okay, who do we start with?
Yeah, I think Professor Tila has more questions.
I would like to possibly exclude Professor Mkenda, because then we might just preempt him from saying anything from his closing remarks.
Okay.
So maybe he sits out this session and the rest respond.
Okay.
I know that the Minister of Education is going to comment more on this one. But let me comment on this, because I hear this one several times, this question of our students not fit, too much theory. I think we might be carried by that wind, yeah? You know, some of us, and many of you, and many Tanzanians, studied abroad. And we know Tanzanians who did very well abroad. And we know Tanzanians who are doing very well as we speak, even in Marekani, even in India, even in Europe. Because it takes two to tango. So we should not make this generalization that Tanzanian young people are not fit for international education. It is not 100% true. A lot of us sitting here, a lot of young people who are not even here, some of them were here, they go abroad, they do very well, they excel. There are also who fail, just like any other person, they fail. Wapo wanakuja hapo wanafeli, ni wazungu na nini. And this idea of saying that our education is too theoretical, to improve, definitely. A lot of room to improve, and this is what the Minister of Education is doing. A lot of reform the government is attempting. But this improvement is a continuous process, and there's no any sometimes I write using a chalk with my students. I project, because there are students who learn by doing, by seeing, others by hearing, all these things. Me, I don't read books on, no, me, I don't use Kindles. Because for me, reading, I read and write. That is me. But my kids never do that. They always read on using Kindles. These things will be there. Bookshops have not been closed. Physical libraries have not been closed. Actually, they're increasing. Waterstones is even expanding. I think you've read New York Times. New York Times, there was a time that the cells, the physical cells were dwindling. But now they are once again increasing. The future is also analog. It's not only digital. Anyway, hiyo nilikuwa nachomekea tu. Arafat, I think that was a good suggestion. I don't have to answer anything on that one. We take your suggestion. Young people are not getting tax burden. I think is an area that we know, and we're working on this one. I think we should try to make innovation as tax-free as possible, so that we remove these constraints. I think that is a good suggestion that we should just embrace. Mr. Mohammed, how are we leveraging technologies? I think that we have embraced, and the government is right now developing the AI strategy. I think it is important. We must align ourselves. We must prepare. We don't have to just be consumers. We also have to be creators. So this one, the government is aligning to these new emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, all these things. We are coming up with the strategy because, that's where the world is. We have to move with it. We can't be left Numa. Mr. John, I think these are brilliant ideas. And we have made a policy. Our president has made it very clear that we blame colonialism for many things, but for two things. They came here, they took our labor. Very energetic young people, they went to work in the colonial masters. The second thing, they came here to take our natural resources in the form of raw materials. You know that at one point, the British colonial government even legally banned, developing industry in the country, so that we only export raw materials during the colonialism. Those two things, in somehow, they have continued. If we continue exporting coffee as coffee leaves, it's a problem. Also tea. So we have decided that we have to create value addition here. But of course, our coffee, our tea, and everything else must meet the international standards. So we're working with our friends all over the world. If we want to export to Russia, we want to export to the UK, we work with them here so that we develop to ensure that it meets the standard of the consumers where we want to export. So it's not just value addition, but also value addition which meets the international standard, so that, because it is also the question of safety. So that one we are doing, and I'm happy that, for example, we spend a lot of time to unlock the Arabic meat market. Sending our meat to Saudi Arabia, to UAE, and Qatar was tough. But I'm pleased to inform you that our market has now been unlocked. So our meat is capable of, we have now some industries here which are meeting the standards of the UAE, of the Qatar, of the Saudi Arabia. Now we have a problem of short supply. 5 years ago, we had a problem of market. Now we have a problem of short supply. So our market has been opened and they want our meat. They are saying our meat is very nice. Sasa tatizo nini sasa? Tunatoa kidogo. So productivity is very important. So that is important. Mr. Emmanuel, Startup Association regulations. I think, you know, these ideas coming from these young people, they are really very good. I think I'm happy. You guys, you are engaged. You know what is happening globally, even giving us that citation from the US. I take your ideas as food for thought. I think in our policy, we really have to give the consumers the power. Yeah, because the government enforces laws, but what happens when the government itself does not, you know, undertake its obligation? There must be a way in which the government is held responsible by the citizens beyond the election. You don't have to wait for 5 years to. So I think those are very good ideas. Really, we have to empower our people. That is what it means by, you know, by democracy. We have to hold each other accountable. It has to be two-way traffic. But we have a system, kind of remind me, there is a ombudsman. Ombudsman. I think we have it in the tax, in different areas ambapo you can go and complain. Kuna tribunal pia, they do that. But you can improve. We can do it better to ensure that we are giving our people power to hold their government accountable. That is the essence of democracy. Otherwise, once again, thank you very much for very brilliant ideas coming from, especially from young people, both men and women. I think that as a government policymaker, I take those ones very seriously, and somehow, somewhere, they will find a room in our policy-making process. Mbarikiwe sana.
Asante sana. So I don't know if there was a question that was directed to Honorable Katambi. We can have more response from Professor Mkenda when he's addressing the closing remarks.
Honorable Katambi, allow me to throw this to the audience as well, as you respond. Did you know that the government has 74 schemes? Na naomba kama utaweza kuongelea, maana najua nyingine ziko chini ya PMO. Lakini kuna skimu 74 za serikali ambazo zinatoa mikopo na dhamana. Were we aware? 74. Some under PMO, some under Ministry of Education, some under Ministry ya Kilimo, some under Ministry ya Ufugaji. Lakini tunaweza pia tukapata more information on that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And if I start with that one, it is true that we have those different schemes that are targeted to make sure that they give a support to whomever that wants to engage himself in entrepreneurship or economy and other activities. And they are under Prime Minister's office, Mfuko wa Uwezeshaji Wananchi Kiuchumi, and it's the controller or the policy control of all those schemes that have been pointed out. And some are in the Prime Minister's office, that's Youth Development Fund that I've said. And we have that 10% of every district council in the country. There are almost like 195 and several. But I can just give you and I can facilitate you to get the link so that we can pass through. But that also shows us in Swahili, they say, if we don't know all of us here, and we're a little bit elite and fair educated, what about those who are outside there? But we are doing that. We advertise them in all social media and different platforms. And even the parliamentary session right now of budget, we are speaking about the same. So it's our duty. We are duty bound also as citizens to get to make sure that we know what is going on in the government, because it's Article 18 of the government of the Constitution, kwamba tuna haki ya kupata taarifa, lakini pia ibara 23 inasema kila mtu anayo haki ya kushiriki katika ujenzi wa taifa lake. moja kwa moja ama kupitia wawakilishi. Sasa we are duty bound as well to make sure that we get the information, though the government at its side, it does the same to make sure that they are communicated. And that's why I said watu zaidi ya milioni 24 kupitia mfuko wa uwezeshaji wananchi kiuchumi, kati ya hiyo mifuko wamekuwa beneficiaries. Going back to the question, as he said, but Professor also has reacted very well on it about the tax burden to the youth programs. But with what I know as of now, most of the youth projects and programs, we facilitate them to make sure first there is the electives, it's a rule from the Ministry of Finance that all the companies related or centered or established by the youth, or youth-led organizations, they are given support, and there is kind of a tax holiday. And Professor has told you there is a lot of ombudsman institutions, especially in the Income Tax Acts and the procedures, that you can make you to get that relief and exemption on whatever that you start. So it depends with what you want to start in the business. So it's the thing of communication, and we make a liaison with our office, and then we can see. And even from to the point of your district council where it is, you can just get the information and help you how to get rid of the tax burden. And we have also set a percent in all tender that are given by the government. Set a percent should be given to the projects that started already, youth-led companies. So there's a set a percent that you have. Whatever, if there are 100 tenders that are given that to people that should bid for the tender, then set a percent is for the youth, and that we are very keen on it. On the local content issue, Professor has said it well. The very big problem, one, is sometimes the demand, it's the issue of the question of demand and supply, and the quality also. There is the issue of value addition to the whatever that we supply, the quality, and not even quantity, and even the issue of quantity as well. As I can give you an example, as you remember in the construction of our Nyerere Dam, Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere hydropower plant, and the SGR, in a day, they needed to have 3,000 chickens, 3,000 chicken per day. Some Tanzanians tried to do so, but they fall short of supply in a week or two. Now what do you do? Because they need chicken. And that's where you find sometimes they are forced by circumstances to import outside their country. Because kuku wetu, unajua, if I can, it's just kind of a mock, kwamba kuna tofauti nilijifunza kati ya kufuga kuku na kuishi na kuku. Sorry, wengi tunaishi na kuku, hatufugi kuku. Kwa sababu SGR, pale SGR, kuku 3,000 kwa siku. Kule bwawa la Mwalimu Nyerere, walikuwa nadhani kuku 1,700 hivi kwa siku. So locals wapo tuliwapa priority unani, lakini mwishoni walikimbia wenyewe, wasema sasa mimi nilikuwa na kuku wangu 100 wote niliwauza jana, kesho hana, na umeingia contract. What do you do? So tuko duty bound pia na sisi kuenda kwenye levels ambazo serikali inatengeneza mazingira wezeshi. That's our duty, to make sure that we create an enabling environment, and that's why unaona kuna hizo loan arrangements nyingi ambazo Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan ameziweka na amekuwa makini kwenye hilo. Lakini more so kama kuna nini hapo pia nimeulizwa hiyo local content to the other context pia, kuna maeneo ambayo kuna specific description or prescription ya kitu fulani wanataka in specific. We fall short of the nini quality inayotakiwa. Ingawa kwa kipindi hiki na tumefanikiwa sana katika kuhakikisha kwamba tunalinda na kutetea hii local content, and not only local content in manufactured goods and whatever supplies or of commodities, even in education. We have revised our law that to regulate the employment of the foreigners in our country. Sio kwa nia mbaya, but it's a goodwill that at least there are some jobs or the positions that should be learned by Tanzanian citizens. Hata nchi nyingine wanafanya hivyo hivyo. So it's a question of sometimes a question of asking ourselves and putting stepping up efforts and a commitment on, do we really search what does the labor market need? Here it is a question on the side of education, but also as well it's ourselves, that we should make a self-reflection and assessment on ourselves. If are we really skilled enough, competent enough? Because if it's the matter of education, Professor Kitila has said, and Honorable Professor Mkenda, they have both pointed out, education is very important. But if we see, and make a fair comment, the level and status of education today compared to the time of independence. Tumepata uhuru, almost the population was 10 million population. In the universities, I think it was Makelele and the University of Dar es Salaam. Once you go in the University of Dar es Salaam, Professor could witness this. In the faculty of law, maybe there were only 3 students. And some other faculties, maybe none. Nobody was there. But the primary school levels and the secondary professors advanced enough in the Honorable Samia Suluhu Hassan. By that time, maybe they were schooled under the trees. Lakini tumepata maprofesa wa aina hii. Tumepata viongozi wa aina hii. Today, our classes, they have well constructed with electricity supplied, water, tiles, and everything. But we still cry that our education maybe is not, competent. That's the thing that we should ask ourselves. And so, if I might wind up, we have put in the Prime Minister's office, also we are doing a serious research in making sure that there is this called the STEM. People should be well trained in issues and faculties of science, technology, engineering, and also arts, and as well mathematics. Those are the areas that we can better and can keep ourselves well, compete with the world. But also, it's the issue of skills and the knowledge. No matter how you can school, no matter how you can pile up your certificates of degree and everything, but what is needed in the labor market, it is skills and the knowledge. Knowledge to know how and know what to do. You should be a problem solver, no matter the level of your education, but you should be a problem solver. And the higher the problem, the higher the payment. So that's the area. So if I may wind up, I think also we really have to have financial redress as well. In the area of loans that we've been given, Professor, and you are a member of parliament, but a representative from your constituency, Ubungo, and Honorable Professor Mkenda, they know. Even myself, I'm a member of parliament and representative from Shinyanga constituency. We've been giving these loans to the youth and even startup capital, be it upscaling capital. But how are we going to use it? That's another question. We've floated already 36.5 billion to the youth. Through the fostering fund, mfuko wa uwezeshaji wa wananchi kiuchumi, it is 3 trillion point 1 that has been given to Tanzanians. Do we have financial redress? That's another question. Even in banks, if you go now in many banks, I don't know if there are bankers here, they could witness the issue of trust. People, they take the loans, they are given, and in this of the government, there is no interest. but even the businessmen of Tanzania. It's not a blame, but I'm just saying the trust level to take a loan and to service the loan. Do we service as per the schedule that has been planned? So there's an issue of financial restress as well that can be revolving around the use and even maybe the financial population. But Prime Minister's office also is committed to do more research, to make monitoring in all the programs and projects that are done by the ministers, the sectoral ministers, to make sure that they'll bring the needed impact, especially to the youth and other groups of population of the country. And if I may finish, I would say we should think on ourselves. We are the youth, including myself. Are we really a solution to a problem? Or at times we are part of the problem? And what are we ought to do to make sure that we get lead of being part of the problem in ourselves? Because it starts with you. The economy, it starts with you. And then comes to the neighborhood, comes to the... Because if we build up a youth population that is strongly, economically strong, that means it is automatically that we've made a social society that is economically strong. And eventually it will be a ward that is very strong, or a street that's very strong. And we go up to the ward, and ward might make a district that is economically strong. A district and district will make a region, and regions will make a country that is economically strong. So if I would pause, I don't know if it's going to come back to me, I would say I think we should avoid and get rid of a blame game. The government is committed to make sure that it creates all the enabling environment in policies, laws, and even the implementation of plans with all the strategy that we'll make. And it is always engaged the citizens to give opinions, to make sure that we are at par, to make sure that make the plan. So if we leave at least a little bit of the blame game, maybe we might move somewhere. Thank you so much.
Yes. Honorable, asante sana. Kwa bahati mbaya hatutaacha kublame kwa sababu huko kwenye nafasi ya kuwa blamed, unfortunately. So let me not commit on behalf of them. But I think we've had a lot of time with waheshimiwa hapa. We might think about winding up, but I would like to, it's going to be a challenge for politicians, because 2 minutes to just tell us, now that we are even working on Vision 2050, what is one bold, actionable commitment for your ministries, that you can make today to fast-track Tanzania's innovation transformation in your own capabilities? So let me just challenge you to take not more than 2 minutes. Prof.
I think we have committed ourselves to... We have what we call drivers. There are 5 that we have committed ourselves. I will mention them very quickly. Number 1, energy. Number 2, science, technology, and innovation. Number 3, research and development. And the government is committing to raise the bar to spend more than 1% of our GDP on research and development. Because if you don't do research, you depend on other things. Maybe you only depend on prayers. Now, chawi kidogo. Sasa hiyo, research and development is going to be key. Number 4, digital transformation. We have also committed very much to ensure that, we embrace digital transformation in our social and economic development policy. That is key. And lastly, which is probably critical, is the question of infrastructure, what we call integrated logistics. This country is very nicely geographically positioned, but positioning itself is not enough. We have to make it accessible so that people are able to come, people are able to... So the question of mobility is going to be fundamentally key going forward. I hope those 2 minutes are enough.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Actually, he has done under 2 minutes, so that's the challenge kwa makofi jamani. Under 2 minutes.
Yes, Prof. commitment of the Ministry of Education. Oh, okay. You have your chance. Thank you. Honorable Katambi, like one board commitment that the Ministry of Youth is going to work on to make Tanzania innovation economy by 2050.
One is to make it more participatory with the youth. That should be inclusive in our whatever that is planned, especially to in line to what is needed in the world of technology, innovation, and science. And number two is to invest in the human capital, to make sure that our youth are well skilled, they have enough knowledge, and they're in line to the demand of the world. So to make sure that's an area that is an area of our commitment. And three is to give a loom to the youth population and whomever that is a Tanzanian, to make sure that it can better good access and to be in a sense of people-centered and leadership that is participatory leadership. And more so, we have been calling us more politicians. I think there are those politicians, but with professors here, once Plato said that we shall never see the better days until politicians become philosophers and philosophers become politicians. And for this context, let me assure you, with the government of Honorable Samia Suluhu Hassan, Her Excellence, and these ministries, these are not politicians, because politicians think about elections. And if we were thinking about election, we would have not been here. But we are leaders. We think about generations. Thank you.
Asante sana.
Yes. Just to wind up before we allow Professor Mkenda to give us the, to summarize and give, it will be part of the summary and his remarks. I wanted to thank Mawaziri wetu, Deputy Minister, for making the time. It has been such an electrifying audience. And as sisi wananchi wa kawaida tunavyoshuka kwenye stage, mimi na Joseph, I will give him the privilege and honor to join me and the ministers as we take a selfie on my phone. Asanteni sana. I think we will take the selfie, then we'll allow Professor to give his remarks.
Thank you very much. Sorry? The picture. Okay. Perfect. So we can finish.
No, let me finish. And I'm going to disappoint you a little bit. First of all, Lucy, yes, what you said, there is a lot of truth into it. I mean, if you go by the fact that we have plenty of scholarships that we fail to partake, that speaks volume about our confidence and so on. However, I have to relate to you a story. I was trying to ask Amos if he remembers. I was in Kigali. I met this Tanzanian Dr. Emmanuel Manasseh. He's the head of International Telecommunication Union in Africa. And he told me about the competition that took place in Africa. Tanzania scooped youth almost 70%. They decided to retake it again. And still, we won majority. So I'm not going to dispute what you said, Lucy, but there are those glimmers that you get to hear, because I was sweetly surprised. But it's good always to try to look at your weaknesses so that you can improve, rather than celebrating things that you are doing very well and then unazo kabweteka. So let me continue to disappoint you guys. In 1950, I think, somebody wrote a paper. It's called, Alan Turing. The paper is Computer Machinery and Intelligence. That was an abstract thinking. It's not skills. It's not hands-on. It's almost philosophical and mathematical. 1950. And today we are talking about artificial intelligence precisely because of that initial paper that was written in 1950. So when we talk about education, we cannot reduce education completely into skills. So my conclusion is, if I was to term it, I would term it in the larger scheme of things. We are talking about innovation here, startup, and so on, which is a small subset of the entire system, ecosystem of education. And I want to look at the bigger picture, the larger scheme of things. If the education system didn't generate thinkers and critical thinkers like Alan Turing and the paper he wrote then, we wouldn't have been talking about artificial intelligence now that, in spite of the challenges that it may pose, it will help to improve health, education, agriculture, and the other systems. If anybody now start to talk about your education is too theoretical, pause. Just we have to combine, proper combination. It's just because we kill polytechnics, which are supposed to be more practical, more intensive, skill intensive, and now people think, there are people who actually think we should do away with anything that you don't see an immediate application. If you went through schools and additional mathematics, complex numbers, they'll drop certain things and focus on other things. So when I was doing my PhD in Sweden, I remember meeting somebody. He was either from Latvia or Estonia, I don't remember, in the laundry room. And I asked him, what are you doing? He said, I'm doing a PhD in chemical engineering. I said, wow, what do you want to do in your life? He said, I want to be a banker. I said, a banker? So why do you do PhD in chemical engineering and then you want to do a bank? I said, oh, if I can do PhD in chemical engineering, then I can do anything. And if I apply for a job in banking, they'll know that I'm smart enough to adopt very quickly. So he's doing it out of joy and pushing his knowledge and so on. And I'm afraid there's a tendency of us trying to reduce education completely into just skills. We are reforming our education to increase the dosage of skills, vocationalize a significant segment of our education system, will never abandon the theory and philosophy and things that look at the future, because we are talking about Future Ready Summit. The future is not just about skills, it's also about trying to conceptualize the world, trying to think deeply. So that was the paper. Let me tell you the story about somebody else. This guy's name is Robert Prevost. In 1990, this gentleman wrote a paper called Probability and Theistic Explanation. Probability and Theistic Explanation, talking about Bayesian theorem and theology. He has a degree in mathematics. When we are discussing about who is going to be the Pope, people say, maybe Africa will have a Pope. This mathematician, Robert Prevost, is now the Pope of Catholic Church. He did degree in mathematics. He wrote a paper that came out in 1990. It came recently, it's online, through Oxford Papers. And he did pastoral work in Peru. Cardinal, a bishop cardinal, and a pope. Maybe, if you want Africa to produce, they should do more mathematics, right? The world is not abandoning critical thinking, philosophy, knowledge, frontier of knowledge. It will be a big mistake if Africa, if Tanzania, because we are talking about these very important things here, absolutely important, because we are talking about vocation, training, which is absolute, that's the reform we're doing. About skills, intensive, and we are leading that approach, we are reforming, but my heart goes cold when I hear people say, mnafundisha quadratic equation. Oh, those Catholics, if you want your son to be a pope, maybe. And you should go search for the paper I'm talking about. So we have examples of things that were thought with imagination, strong imagination and theory. You know, Einstein, some of the theorem he did could not be proved until he had supersonic devices to prove later, well after he died, and some of them are becoming quite useful. So science, even pure science, even chemistry, even physics, remain extremely important. We are going to transform our education where we have two streams of education, where we have vocationalized segment. We will never abandon the stream that will keep those who just want to push frontier of knowledge with imagination to do things like me and Taxon, Lagrangian multiplier, and things like those that we are doing in classroom, because that is very important. Now let me remind everybody here, why are we poor? Why is this country poor? Let me surprise you a little bit. We are poor because we are backward in science and technology. Period. Is it because of colonialism? If we had guns, would they have colonized us? If Mkwawa had better guns, would they have come and colonized us? If we had big boats, could mount big guns on the boats, maybe we'll have gone to Europe to colonize them. We were colonized because we are backward in science and technology. Never forget that. And we remain backward if we don't invest in science and technology. China had 4 priorities that they sustained over a long period, and thank you, Professor Kitila, for the vision, the way you conceptualize it. 4 things. Go and check. Since 1964, agriculture, industry, science and technology, and defense. And they sustain the focus throughout. Chu and Lai, as the premier, and Mao Zedong, as the chairman, supreme leader, in certain ways. Deng Xiaoping continued that line, and now today we are talking about Huawei supporting us here. They never abandoned science and technology. They didn't abandon for other things, because these things we are discussing as a subset, which is very important, but we should not reduce everything to that. We better encourage our youth, go and study. Sometimes you can be a footballer, but very good in mathematics if you want. We cannot just say all the time that is, because if we did, we will have abandoned mathematics, and today we are going to send our youth to study data science, artificial intelligence, and we are going to pick the best in mathematics, in chemistry, and those kind of things. We are backward because of science and technology. Let me explain a little bit here in terms of okay, so in terms of innovation, our innovations are very good, but they will be even better if they are buttressed by scientific knowledge, deeper scientific knowledge, the underlining platform. Then you can have innovation, you can have technology. Norway, there is a paper, I was trying to use my phone here to remember the paper an economist who wrote and tell us that Norway, Sweden, Finland, I don't know if somebody from Finland here, no? All those countries were very poor, 1990. They developed, they are the best in human development in the world. Norway has a lot of natural resources, gas, fisheries and waterfalls, beautiful country. Finland had forest. Sweden, limited natural resources, iron ore, a little bit. They didn't develop because of those. They developed because they invested in education. When Bill Clinton was running for presidency in 1992, on his desk, he wrote some words. Is the economy stupid? That what we need is to deal with the economy to win. I can say, it is education stupid. We need to invest in education, particularly science and technology, for us to move on. Norway developed money to harness its power and natural resources because they invested in education and technology. They command their own natural resources. Not investors to come and do it, but they have the capability to do it because of the investments they made in the country. Investors are very good, but they come to fill the gap because we can do it. Don't ever forget it, right? We celebrate, we want more investors, but because we have gold, we cannot go down and dig it and sell it. So we want somebody, come, please, come. Investor-friendly environment, because we didn't invest enough in science and technology in order to harness our own natural resources. Somebody told me Nokia was invented by Finland because of the huge forest. They needed to communicate when they were walking through the forest. Because of science and technology, the forest in Finland helped the country to move. top standard of living in the world, no matter what. Every time you look, Norway, Sweden, Finland, they come at the top. Let's look at our case here. Agriculture. Why do we import edible oil? We spend $500 billion shillings importing edible oil. Palm oil. When I went to Uganda, Kangala, I found that there's a seed, specific seed called Tanzania, apparently brought from Costa Rica. Maybe it's true that palm tree was discovered in Tanzania, and we import palm oil from abroad. It's because of productivity. It's very low productivity because we don't have enough science and technology. I used to be Minister of Agriculture. Sunflower. Tried to transform farming of sunflower. We were looking for seed. And they told us, you know, the country that leading producer of sunflower in the world is Ukraine. And by that time, they didn't want to sell the seed. For us to start to make Singida and around regions to produce enough. You cannot right now outcompete imported edible oil because of very low productivity of our farmers. And you can deal with that through science and then technology. So we are poor because of science and technology. All the money we are shipping out to go and import edible oil is because we haven't invested enough in research to understand the farming practice that will help us to produce enough to satisfy our needs and also export. How about wheat? We import about 1 million tons of wheat abroad. Ukraine again comes almost at the top. Ukraine sunflower, Ukraine wheat. And why? Basuto farmers collapsed. Why? Because productivity is very low. It is about science and technology that can help us. And development of agriculture, I used to have a saying, and I tell you, if you really want to develop, the prices of goods, agricultural goods that you consume, should be as low as possible. But the income of farmers should be as high as possible. How do you do that? The amount you produce per acre has to increase tremendously so that the price will go down, because there's no way you can industrialize while in order to feed yourself, you struggle to eat. You pretend to pay the workers and they'll pretend to work for you. And they're not lazy, it's just you are not paying well. They need to eat first, and look at the basket of workers in these countries. About 50% of it goes to food. If the food is very expensive, it's expensive because productivity is very low. You can import maize from Mexico, go all the way through South Africa to Mombasa in Kisumu, and that maize will be cheaper than the maize we'll take from Songeatu. It's about science and technology. It is about science and technology. You must invest, we must know agronomics, how to improve our agriculture. And at the end of the day, we need almost about 5% of people to be engaged in agriculture. Not more people, less people. Because less people should be able to feed the country and export. By that time, the food will be so cheap, the rest of the population will engage themselves in other activities, including industrialization. That's how everybody else has developed. Talk about, and I'll finish here, defense and national security. This story I was told, because when I was talking about sending people to data science abroad to study, and I was pinpointing places to send them, somebody told me, I think Latvia, if I have to remember, or Estonia. I don't remember which. Estonia. I think apparently they were attacked by cyber. There was a cyber attack. They realized that there's no way they can function. Now we are talking about Mwalimu Nyerere Dam. It will be driven by digital technology, right? SGR. At some point, you'll find yourself, everything is computerized and so on. You have cyber attack, everything will collapse, will stand. I think if it is Estonia, if it's correct, I have to say correctly, they decided that no more cyber attack on our country. They invested heavily, and they're doing very well. Somebody told me about Bolt. Yes? Came from? Yeah, that's a startup. That's the startup that went global. Even in terms of warfare. Heavy equipment maybe are still important, but increasing people use drones and robotics. Small countries can withstand onslaught from bigger countries just because of technology. And we have to do that. Anyway, I said I will disappoint you because we are talking about startup, which is very important, and we are going to support and will continue to support that. Innovation, very important. But I wanted to close my remarks by what I will call on the larger scheme of things. And if we focus on that, this will be a subset, a small subset. We continue to invest in science. And from science, technology. And innovation on how to use that science through technology. We don't do that, we are doomed. Nothing will change in this country. I'm not complaining. Right now, I'm Minister of Education, Science and Technology, right? Whom am I going to blame? We just have to work harder to come up with bigger ideas, to move. We'll support innovations as we are doing. And I think we are doing even better. I'm happy we are hosting this, and we'll continue to do that. But I want, wherever we are discussing, we should not abandon the larger scheme of things. So let me conclude by thanking all the sponsors who supported us. The names are written there. Some of them were here. Talking Vodacom, I think, have left. UK. I know UNICEF for UN system and so on. I believe Amos will always have a way of writing letters to thank the sponsors that help. But thank the young people. I joined Professor Kitila Mkumbo by saying that when we look at you and your face and the fact that you are seated here, listening, trying to push and challenging us, we have a brighter future. So we are trying to seal ourselves against blames, but you said correctly, you will continue to receive blames if we don't do our duty to support you. But we are here to engage, we'll continue to engage all the time. I'm sure the one who was talking about the letter to Professor Kitila, I know him, if it was on his table, he will have called you himself personally. So if somebody in the bureaucracy took it and say, give opinion, and it hasn't reached there is an opportunity right now to engage directly, and all of us should be available to engage directly. I hope you like the fact that the Pope published a mathematical paper to try to justify theology. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. I must say that the closing remarks were like a masterclass. You know, he could go on and on and on. And the level of knowledge and the relevance and the examples just bring everything to life. Kwa hiyo jamani, mimi I work in comms, but I feel like I might go back to science and... All right, on that note, we come to the end of this panel. Thank you very much for being such an engaging audience. Sijasahau, I have a selfie to go. And after that, Joseph, I think you can just do the closing remarks.
No, we're done. I mean, Professor Amaliza, niongeze
Vote
nini?
of thanks.
Asanteni sana.
Well,
fine. Vote of thanks. I think Amesha Shukuru sponsors. So no, thanks basically for everyone who has been with us for this. And maybe just to start with these three gentlemen here, we actually invited them on short notice. And I can vouch what Professor Mkenda just said, that you can call Professor Kitila anytime, he's going to respond. If he doesn't, he's going to send a text, which is that kind of leadership we need. Professor Mkenda is always available. I'm glad that their personal assistants now are actually reaching out and very available. Professor Katambe, I think you got the letter, was it just yesterday? But he's here, so thank you so much for making this time. I think everyone appreciates this, and we hope it's not because October is approaching, right? We can continue. We can continue with this kind of spirit. No, thank you so much. I mean, again, on I'm not talking on my, but on UNDP's behalf, Vodacom and Costec, that we have worked together to put this together. Thank you, Azam TV, UNCDF, UNICEF, Huawei, UN Women, Mwananchi, Stanbic, CRDB, everyone who has been with us. It was really worth the efforts were put in, and we are still here until tomorrow, so still be around, engage with the youth. In the youth dome, some of you who haven't had time to go through there, just go and see what they're showcasing. And asanteni sana. I hope you can be here tomorrow as well. So selfie time, right?